morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
We have gathered up a great bunch of stories, poems, and news this week from all over the West. And, for example, you'll learn how to cure a dog of killing chickens.
She pelted, she thrashed him and more till the chicken was threadbare and gray.
And how a load of expensive hay got sold to 3 different people.
In the conversation, well, it turns out that Joe had given Walker a deposit on the same stack of hay.
That guy is kind of a legend in the world of horses, Gary Westergaard, and he'll be in our guest spot this week. And what's trending on the price line in the fall cattle runs?
So we adjusted our steer prices for 2019 down a fair amount.
You'll find out why that happened on the Rangeland News this week. And in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, Jack DeWorth.
So I saddled old Bay and we go for a ride, and we find this old cow with the calf by her side and head her back to where she belongs. Golly, it's cold. The wind's getting strong.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll tell you what really motivates a horse. More than food, more than pressure, more than intimidation. And you'll hear from Gary Westergaard after this one from a guy who rode across the Great Divide way too soon. He was a good cowboy and a fine songwriter, Tony Reed.
Got a saddle for my pony, got a place to lay my head. The boss is good and honest, and the grub is just the best. Well, the boys all think I'm crazy, 'cause I'm heading further west, pushing cows to California, giving up that steady check. Well, I'm pushing, pulling, riding, sliding, chasing cows all day, throwing, roping, branding, tying, gathering those strays. The winters might be cozy in that shack up in the hills, 'cause my blue-eyed gals are waiting at the end of the trail. Well, this cowboy gets so lonely, or this cowboy gets so blue, living out here on the prairie with his horse and coyotes too. There's no one to share the nights with, or the million stars above. I'll ride on into town for to see my Irish love. Up my old spurs, I've moved on into town. No more to ride the range, this time I've settled down. No more pushing, pulling, riding, sliding, chasing cows all day, throwing, roping, branding, tying, gathering those strays. The winters will be cozy in that shack up in the hills, with that blue-eyed gal beside me at the end of the trail. Well, the winters will be cozy in that shack up in the hills, with that blue-eyed gal beside me at the end of the trail.
In Included in the fine group of folks who joined our recently concluded British Isles Spirit of the West cruise were Gary Westergaard and his wife Patsy. Now, Gary is kind of a legend in the world of horses and cowboys, too. He and Pat own and operate GW Equine Services out of Sherwood Park, Alberta. Gary's ridden a lot of the rugged rangeland of the BC interior, cowboying on some of the biggest outfits in the West. His dad was a lifelong horseman, and he gave Gary some advice earlier on.
He told me that an old fella was one of his mentors told him when he got married when he was 29 or 30 that then he better quit working with those rough horses and get serious about his life. But
So he did?
he did. Yeah.
That's interesting. My dad told me when he could see that all I had in my mind was cattle and horses and ranching, and it all came down to the horses, but that whole lifestyle. And he told me more than once, get that notion of horses and cattle out of your head. There's no future in it. And I didn't listen. But he couldn't see it, you know.
The same thing with me at different times over the years when I'd get run over and stepped on or have a broken arm or whatever. Dad would say, when are you going to quit working with those crazy horses? And I think the last time he said that to me, I was probably about 60-some years old, but I still hadn't smartened up.
Yeah, and you're probably still doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
So, and it was Dixon was the name of the place, just north of Innisfail. Yeah, I thought I knew everywhere in central Alberta.
West of Innisfail.
West of Innisfail.
Yeah. It's pretty well halfway between Innisfail and Caroline.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I must have been through it, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you hang around home for a while then when you grew up? Or?
Oh, I left for Red Deer to take my grade 12 in Red Deer, and then I was breaking a few horses then, and had a little place rented in Red Deer, and then I started riding some colts for a fellow by the name of Doc Spencer. He was the government vet, and he was one of the first people to bring in quarter horses into Alberta. And he brought in these, he had two stallions. He was standing there, and then I brought a mare down to breed to him, and then he asked me if I'd be interested in riding some colts for him in exchange for the stud fee. And I think I was 19 then, and so that was the first chance I ever had to ride some registered horses. And then it just kind of started out from there, and then a few years, probably 7 or 8 years entailed, and then I ended up out in southern British Columbia.
And Gary talks about his days riding for those big outfits in BC when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Centre to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Boy, we sure enjoyed sharing stories and good times with so many great folks as we toured Ireland, Scotland, and England, and a little bit of France a few weeks ago. And I just wish I could have recorded stories from everybody in the group, because we sure heard some good ones. I did manage to corral Gary Westergaard and get in a few highlights from his amazing life.
It was quite a bunch of horses when I look back on it, and then as time went by, well, then I rode at both Douglas Lake and Nicola.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure. It seems to be the name Gene Turnbow comes up in connection with Nicola.
Yes. Yeah.
Would that be after the Parker brothers?
No, Gene was the manager.
Okay, that's
Was the manager.
Yeah.
And he did like as different people said, kind of at the end of their tenure, that he did tremendous things for the horse population in the Nicola Valley and probably the whole interior of BC there, because like this Johnny Dial horse, it seemed like any of the girls that wanted a barrel racing horse, well, they had to have a horse out of Johnny Dial, and then there were great rope. All of those horses were great rope horses. Like I primarily rode young horses. Like all the cowboys, they all had a young horse in their string, but pretty well my whole string was made up of young horses. And I'd come to work Monday morning, and I never really knew for sure how many horses I had to ride, because Gene had quite possibly sold a couple over the weekend or sent one down to somewhere in the States or whatever, so I'd have to go up on the hill and gather in two or three more young ones to start on. But the Nicola Lake at that time, they were responsible for moving their horses all over the country. It was quite interesting.
I can remember a friend of mine he built a hot walker. He was at the 7-0 ranch, Lewis Sauer. He came up from Texas with the family when they bought it from the Palmers. And Lewis was a handy guy with a welder and pipe and all that stuff. And he built this neat hot walker, and he loaned it to Gene Turnbow. And somehow I wound up going down in a pickup truck trying to haul this hot walker back from Merritt up to the 7-0 ranch.
I remember something about that. Yeah.
When Billy and I finally got it in the truck, it stood up. I bet you that thing was 25 or 30 feet high. And a good thing we didn't have any power lines to go under, and we didn't see any cops, but we're looking back at the top of this hot walker in the back of our little truck. But
yeah, I remember something about that hot walker sitting there. I don't know if Gene ever did utilize it or not. He had a very active mind. He was quite an interesting man.
Well, there are a lot of legendary characters in that part of the world, and you'll hear about some more of them after another good song from his latest album. This is Ryan Fritz.
In the big high lonesome, love will leave you high and dry, 'cause you crave for the riding, takes you far from city lights. But now you're working on a ranch, and it's every cowboy's dream, riding with the rancher's daughter, and she likes you too, it seems. Trailing cows to the summit, got there just after dark, riding home that summer night is when you stole her heart. But it must have been the way that the wind sang old songs through the pine. It must have been the way that you galloped, oh so carefree through the moonlight. It must have been the way home at night. Take a left at the first fork, there's a mark there on a tree, and you tell her it's a shortcut, and you'll get her home, she'll see. And you talk about your horse while she asks about your dreams. You tell her that you're living it, and you cross that narrow stream, where you take off your hat, rein your horse up to her side. You move in for that first kiss, she says yes with her eyes. But it must have been the way that the wind sang old songs through the pine. It must have been the way that you galloped, oh so carefree through the moonlight. It must have been the way home that night. And thank God for the long way home that night.
Ryan did a great show at the Longhouse in Williams Lake last weekend, and he's going to be in Merritt, BC, October the 4th at the AP Guest Ranch. And a lot of the ranges that Gary Westergaard rode on are not far from the town of Merritt, and he recalled some of the characters that he encountered there.
Well, and there was Walker McCrae and Spook McCrae. And would you like to hear a story about Walker?
You bet.
Well, this Walker, he was just a amiable, nice kind of a guy, and he cowboyed here and cowboyed there, and had a few cattle on the reserve, and like a lot of the fellas there, they'd all have their own hay field, and they'd raise a crop of hay on it, and cut it and bale it, and then usually sell it to the other ranchers. So this one particular winter, I was doing some work for Marino Pozzebon. You probably
Oh
know
my gosh!
Marino?
Yes, Marino.
Yeah.
His old barn sat right out across from where we live right now.
Oh, really?
And we moved it to another place about 20 years ago. That was Marino's barn.
Well, I could tell there are a million stories about Marino.
Oh, and the Pozzebons.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So anyway, I was working for him, and then he told me one morning that we had to go and start hauling hay home from Walker's place up on Spockman, because he'd bought this stack of hay. So that was fine. So we go up there and we get the load on the big 3-ton truck, and we're coming down off the plateau there, and then we run into Joe Lauder. I'd stop and BS with him for a minute, and then he asked where we got the hay from. And so Marino, he told him we got it from, he bought this load from, or this stack of hay from Walker. So in the conversation, well, it turns out that Joe had given Walker a deposit on this same stack, of hay. So then we thought, well, it's getting late in the day, so we'll iron this out, tomorrow or whatever. So we went on home and unloaded the hay, and so then they get talking, trying to figure this out. Well, then it turns out that Walker had already, earlier on, sold this stack to Douglas Lake. And he'd been paid in cash, and then he had already been getting supplies and such from the store. So that was 3 times he'd sold this one stack of hay. So I can't remember how Joe and Marino settled it, but the next spring, well, then I was back at Portland Cow Camp with Douglas Lake, and what they had done, they took 4 young horses from Walker in exchange on this devious deal. And then I broke these 4 horses.
And there's more to that story still to come. And next, Baxter Black shares a surefire cure for discouraging a dog from killing chickens. And then the Rangeland News, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at chicken training.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
Training dogs is easier than training a lot of things. Centipedes, for instance, mice, or teenagers even. But if a dog gets into a bad habit, there are tricks that you can use that have stood the test of time. Pancho Villa, my Australian shepherd, kept dragging the plastic cover off our 8-foot stock tank hot tub combination. Finally, I tied a 6-foot strip of it to his collar. He wore it for 2 days, and he's never bothered it since. Of course, when they go to killing chickens, that requires more drastic measures. She felt an affection for chickens. She did. Some might say it was overly so. So when her good hens started showing up dead, it dealt her kind heart quite a blow. The dog, she figured, that pig-headed cur that helped the old man with his stock. He acted like he was king of the place, the duly crowned cock of the walk. Well, she laid several traps and kept an eye peeled to catch the canine in the act. She'd recently read in the Poultryman's News of a cure for these chicken attacks. The method was crude, but was flat guaranteed to put this behavior to bed. At last she espied the old dog fast asleep, a chicken, laid out by his head. She put on a glove and crept out on the lawn, sneaked up and grasped the flat hen, and then proceeded to wallop that foul-killing dog with the chicken. I mean, end to end. He dove for the doghouse. She followed him in. There ensued bodacious uproar, timber and bedding and pieces of dog came boiling out through the door, over the haystack, and down through the creek and under the black silage tarp, leaving behind him a trail of yelping, of feathers, of dog hair and carp. She whacked him, she pelted, she thrashed him and more, till the chicken was threadbare and gray. Exhausted, she fell to her knees, satisfied she'd applied the technique the right way. She loosened her grip on the poor chicken's neck, a sacrifice made for the flock. She laid the wee beast reverently out on the lawn and swooned when he sat up and squawked. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva Agriscience.
Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Just ahead of the Rangeland news, here's one I haven't played for a while. Enjoy Cindy Church and Love on the Range.
Sun's gone down and the workday's through, all day he's thinking of a rendezvous. Puts up a saddle, throws his horse some hay, from Longview Love's just an hour away. Well, he shaves and showers, puts his town clothes on, grabs his best hat off the old deer horn, jumps in his truck, turns the motor on, warms it up on the way to town. It's late in the evening, but his sweetheart knows he's burning up his tires on the gravel road. She just can't wait till she sees him again. That's the way it is with love on the range. That's the way it is with love on the range. start early and the work is hard. He yawns as he pulls his truck in the yard. It's late in the evening, but his sweetheart knows he's burning up his tires on the gravel road. She just can't wait till she sees him again. That's the way it is with love on the range. That's the way it is with love on the range. It's late in the evening, but his sweetheart knows he's burning up his tires on the gravel road. Same thing tomorrow, it will never change. That's the way it is with love on the range. That's the way it is with love on the range.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
As the fall cattle run gets rolling, it seems like there's always good news and bad news depending on when you're able to ship. Steer prices took a little dip just about the time a lot of our neighbors got theirs gathered and sorted, and that might all relate to a fire back in August. With the story, here's Gary Crawford.
That fire back in early August at a beef processing plant in Holcomb, Kansas, took out about 6% of the nation's fed cattle processing capacity, and so Agriculture Department analysts have trimmed their beef production forecast for this year by 90 million pounds, mostly because of the closure of that plant.
That is expected to be back online in 2020, so that should support higher beef production going into 2020.
Acting USDA Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski, USDA expects 2020 beef production to top this year by 720 million pounds. The Holcomb closure has also, though, served to bring down steer prices.
So we adjusted our steer prices for 2019 down a fair amount.
By $3 a hundredweight to an average of $113.52. USDA also reducing next year's price forecast.
Largely reflecting that we were going to be starting from a lower base in 2020.
But he says steer prices next year should still top this year's average. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
The Saskatchewan Stock Growers Association continues to meet with the Saskatchewan Roughriders Football Club after beef producers raised concerns about a television commercial filmed during a Riders game. An A&W ad currently running shows people wearing Rider gear trying out the restaurant's meatless Beyond Meat burgers outside Regina's Mosaic Stadium. Beef producers and others complained that it looked like the football club endorsed the idea of eating less beef. While the commercial does show Rider fans tasting the product and giving their opinions, we want to assure your members and all of Rider Nation that the ad does not represent any reduction in support by the Saskatchewan Roughriders Football Club to specific beef or agriculture industries in our great province of Saskatchewan. According to Chief Brand Officer Anthony Partapilo. And he says, we understand this is a very sensitive issue for your membership and for Canadian ranchers, and we apologize for any distress this might have caused. Meanwhile, the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Association General Manager Chad McPherson said plant proteins have always competed with meat, but the marketing campaigns undertaken by A&W and others in recent years have often misrepresented beef and misinformed consumers. And the restaurant chain is also often criticized because it buys imported beef. It says it can't source enough Canadian beef that meets its requirements. After a rancher told the Otero County, Colorado sheriff his 13-year-old son was shot at while checking cattle in a pasture, authorities initiated an investigation that has uncovered dozens of illegal marijuana cultivation plots in southeastern Colorado. A statement from the Los Animas County Sheriff's Office said more than 40 illicit plot cultivations had been destroyed this summer with a value of nearly $6 million. The announcement said that the Otero County rancher believed his son had stumbled upon an illegal marijuana grow-op when he was shot at, and that prompted the Colorado Bureau of Investigation's Black Market Marijuana team to launch the investigation. The Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame and Western Heritage Center has announced the 12th class of inductions into the Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame. These inductees were chosen from a field of candidates nominated by the general public. Inductees are honored for their notable contribution to the history and culture of Montana. The board of directors had designated 12 trustee districts across the state from which 20 trustees can be appointed, and they will be honored at the annual Circle the Wagons gathering, February 7th and 8th, 2020 in Great Falls at the Best Western Heritage Inn. And full biographies for past inductees are available on the website montanacowboyfame.org. Cattle sales coming up at the BC Livestock Co-op include a regular cattle sale at Okanagan Falls on September 23rd, regular and special calf sale in Kamloops on the 24th, and a calf sale in Williams Lake on the 25th, and then the regular sale on the 26th, and the regular sale in Vanderhoof on the 27th. Meanwhile, out at the Innisfail Auction Market, the first pre-sort sale of the season is September 23rd, and regular sales, of course, every Wednesday. For more information, see InnisfailAuctionMarket.com or give them a call at 1-800-710-3166. Now, the final item, it comes from our, and this department's getting bigger all the time, it's the Department of You Know You're Getting Old When. For example, your knees buckle, but your belt won't. Your back goes out more than you do. You sink your teeth into a steak, and they stay there. And you know all the answers, but nobody asks the questions. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a look at the factor that is more important to a horse than just about anything, including food, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Got an interesting subject coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, but first, a few important changes to tell you about for our 2020 Spirit of the West cruise. First of all, we've made an adjustment to the date. We will board Holland America's beautiful Connings Dam for a 7-day journey to Alaska and back on the 14th of July. And this will be the final cruise that Billy and I will be hosting. We call it The Spirit of the West Brings It Home, and we're doing our very best to make this one really special. You'll start out with a visit to our place, our little ranch up here in the hills above Kamloops, the Spirit of the West World Headquarters. You'll be treated to a great live Western music show by the amazing Western Spirit Band. And if she's still around by then, you'll have a chance to meet Lucky the Wonder Horse and maybe take her picture. And from there, we'll head up to beautiful Sun Peaks Resort, where cattle still roam in the summertime, and the chairlift can take you right up to the Alpine, where the view is incredible and the wildflowers will be blooming everywhere. Next morning, we load up the coaches and head down to the incredible Fraser Canyon and overnight in Vancouver, boarding the ship the next day. The package includes the spectacular White Pass Railroad from Skagway and back, and so much more. The whole itinerary is now up on our cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com, and you can get all the details at 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
For all the latest and greatest this fall, saddle up for Urban Tack and Western Wear. Something for everyone, cowboys and cowgirls to city folks too. Like I always say, it's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Jeans, shirts, hoodies, jackets, gloves, and oh, check out the new Boot Ranch. It's Bootyful. Hey, I don't write this stuff, I just read it. Urban's has over 70,000 square feet of selection to keep your family feeling warm and wonderful. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Canada's largest Western store.
Had a lot of fine horse folks along on our recent Spirit of the West cruise to the British Isles, and the discussions around the dinner table were fascinating, interesting, and enlightening. And the one thing we talked about was using treats to get a horse to do what you want, and other things that they are motivated by. Now, let's look at a situation where a horse is suddenly removed from the pasture and his herd mates where he's lived for a few years. He's taken to a strange place with surroundings he's never seen. He's put in a paddock next to a horse he's never seen before. If you observe a horse in this situation carefully, in almost every case, and not all, the horse will be agitated, upset, nervous, pacing, and also will not really want to eat very much. The pattern is usually a few hurried mouthfuls of hay or grass and then back to pacing. What this illustrates is that a horse's security is from knowing his place in the herd, where his standing is in the pecking order, and those things are more important even than eating to him. That's not really rocket surgery, but it shows that through evolution, the horse's safety has depended on the herd more than food or water or human contact. Now, only once, that security is established, and it can be, I think, established between a horse and a person if the person really understands, and only then will he really settle in and feel safe and secure enough to eat normally. The point is, he needs leadership, companionship, and comfort, a heck of a lot more than he needs treats from a human. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Something else that we don't use as a treat, but it sure helps their condition, is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. At the Kamloops Cowboy Festival a few years back, we were royally entertained by Devin Dawson and Jessie Robertson, known as Miss Devin and the Outlaw. Their latest CD arrived, and I thought you'd enjoy this one with Jessie singing the lead on I'm Just a Cowboy.
I was sitting by the campfire when Dusty got out his guitar. He started playing some soft Spanish music, so I laid back and stared at the stars. Started thinking about a cabin and a girl that I left behind, wondering if she was thinking about me after all this time. I'm just a cowboy, it's what I've always wanted to be, just a cowboy. There ain't nothing special about me, just a cowboy, enjoying a cool summer breeze and riding the open range where a man is free. In the morning I'll saddle my pony and I'll ride out on the range. Thoughts of home and that girl will fade for a while as I cross the Red River Plains. I'll sing with the lowing of the cattle, and I'll sweat in the hot summer sun. Watch the trail for trouble ahead, keep my hand by my side near my gun. I'm just a cowboy, it's what I've always wanted to be, just a cowboy. There ain't nothing special about me, I'm just a cowboy, enjoying a cool summer breeze and riding the open range where a man is free. Today we'll get the cattle to market, and I've already made up my mind. I'm heading back home to Texas, to that cabin and that girl of mine. I'm gonna take her in my arms and hold her, I'm never gonna let her go. I'm sticking close to her campfire, 'cause I love her so.
I'm still a cowboy, 'cause it's what I wanna be. Still a cowboy, and that girl's what's special about me. Still a cowboy, with my son sitting on my knee, and we'll ride out on the open range where a man is free. Yes, we'll ride out on the open range where a man is free.
Oh man, just love the guitar work of the great Rich O'Brien on that one from Miss Devon and the Outlaw. Well, in the last segment, you heard Gary Westergaard telling the story of the load of hay that was sold to 3 different buyers and how that devious deal finally wound up with 4 young horses being part of the settlement.
And then I broke these 4 horses, but there was one of them in particular was a very smart horse, and I don't know if it didn't seem like it had any work done ahead of time, but I used it during turnout and everything, and started him out the Bozell and that, and he just kept on improving and everything, and so by fall time I was 2-reining him in a Bozell and a spade bit, and he was just a tremendous little horse.
Jeez.
And I called him Walker.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite a story. I remember I rode with Sammy Posabon and his son Kevin for a long time. Kevin was cow boss at the Lions Head Ranch, and Billy and I looked after their Meadow Lake division, so we got together a lot. But Sammy was, did you know Sammy? Like Marino's
No, I never did meet.
You called him the Wild and Woolly Posabon.
Oh. Well, there was one time that like they had a type of a community watch type of thing. That was called a Shep.
Yeah,
Shep Patrol.
That. Yeah.
So they had a 4-wheel drive vehicle that they left at the police station, and then the ranchers would take it out and patrol, and then the loggers and whatever, just to see that gates are closed and all this sort of thing. So Marino and Gint Gilrich.
Oh, Gint, there's another
guys. Yeah. So they had taken the vehicle, and then it was their time to patrol. So they took along a bottle of whiskey and a case of beer. So when they finished their patrol and they get back, well then Marino was driving. So they pull into Gint's yard, and Gint said, well, maybe you should just leave the vehicle here for the night and then take it back in the morning, because I
can just hear Gint in his soft-spoken way saying
exactly. That. And then Marino said, well, my mom never raised me to be no coward, and he took the vehicle on up to the police station and went in and slapped the keys down on the desk, and they just slapped down the impaired driving ticket in exchange and kept him there for the night.
Oh my goodness! Man!
So that was a big joke in the community.
Well, coming up is the classic Song of the West for this week, and one of the master poets who's gone across the Great Divide in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Centre to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. This week's classic Song of the West is one that I've featured a few times by everyone from Joe Stafford to Ian Tyson. But this version I thought was worth playing from Mike Blakely's latest CD, The Outside Circle. It's a song I find myself singing to my horse a lot as we trail cows down off the summer range, the Colorado Trail.
Ride through the lonely night, ride through the day, keep the herd moving, moving on its way. Weep all ye little rains, wail winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. Eyes like the morning star, cheeks like a rose. Laurel was a pretty girl, God Almighty knows. Weep all ye little rains, wail winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. Ride through the stormy night, dark is the sky. Wish I'd stayed in Abilene, warm and safe and dry. Weep all ye little rains, wail winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. All along, along, along the Colorado Trail.
The much-loved Kansas cowboy poet Jack DeWerff rode across the Great Divide September 17th, 2015. I first met Jack at the Festival of the West in Scottsdale back in the mid-90s, and he commented on how nice it was to see a real rancher and cowboy after all the wannabes around there dressed up like gunfighters. Anyway, this poem of his was on the back page of a Western Horseman calendar back in about 1992, called Wintertime.
The weather's cold, about 2 below. Winds are blowing and starting to snow. This old cow'd went 1.5 miles to the back of the pasture to have her calf. There's a blizzard a-comin', that's easy to tell. We sure need to get her back home to Krell where she'll have some protection when the wind starts to blow, and we can feed 'em some hay if it covers with snow. So I saddled old Bay and we go for a ride, and we find this old cow with the calf by her side and head her back to where she belongs. Golly, it's cold, and the wind's getting strong. And I'm wondering, why would anyone choose to be a rancher and suffer this abuse? The bitter cold winter and the sun's blistering heat, and the wind and the dust and the rain and the sleet. Sometimes it's so dry that the grass won't grow, and if you have to sell, the prices are low. And you work every day from sun to sun, no matter how hard, you never get done. In winter you chop ice and feed hay every day, and your summers are spent fixing fence and baling hay. And I think to myself, I must be insane to keep on a living out here on this plain. I could be working from 9 to 5, somewhere in town where it's warm inside, with a paycheck each week and vacations, I'm told, instead of out here chasing cows in the cold. You get weekends and holidays off, and somehow it sure does seem easier than outsmarting cows. And if I can just get this old cow turned around, I'm going to start looking for a soft job in town. My fingers are froze and I'm chilled to the bone, and I'm sure that I'll freeze to death before I get home. Old Bay, he's a-pushing to hurry him along, but we can't go too fast 'cause the calf ain't too strong. But then up ahead's the home corral, and it's a beautiful sight. And I'm hoping there won't be no more born tonight. Check all the cows, they all seem okay, and I go to the barn, unsaddle old Bay, and go to the house, poke up the fire. Just to get warm is my greatest desire. But then I pick up the paper to catch up on the news and realize then why it's this life I choose. There's muggins and killings and robbery and rape and crime and corruption by heads of state, and filth and pollution and smog that won't leave. Why, the air in the city ain't fit to breathe. Nobody says howdy when you meet on the street. Your neighbors don't know you. They won't even speak. And you don't talk to strangers. Can't take the chance. Life sure does seem a lot simpler out here on the ranch. Oh, sometimes cow punching gets tedious, all right, but you don't have to lock all your doors every night. You can walk in the evening without fear for your life, 'cause I've never seen a cow carry a gun or a knife. And to leave this old ranch just don't make no sense. I guess the grass just looks greener over the fence. 'Cause compared to the city, this old winter storm don't seem all that tough, now that I'm warm. Yeah, sometimes the lights of the city seem bright when you're out tending cows on a cold winter's night. But when all's said and done, I don't guess I'll change. I'm staying right here at my home on the range.
Well, thanks again so much for riding along, and you're more than welcome to join us right here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to the Spirit of the West support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. When we were sailing around the British Isles, Mark's cell phone rang at about 3 o'clock in the morning. He answered it, and it was a guy in Saskatchewan, where it was 1 in the afternoon, wanting to find a hydraulic pump for a John Deere 3130. Anyway, I think Mark found it for him, and if you need tractor parts, just see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. Be sure to see the story with pictures on my beautiful new River Song guitar in the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe at cowboycountrymagazine.com. And you can watch this program on YouTube, and you can get it as a podcast and see our whole list of radio stations and the links at hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.